All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Mondays Down South. I am glad to be back after an off week. Last week, after, week 5 in the NFL, a ton of great games this week. But before we jump into football, obviously the baseball playoffs have been wild these couple of weeks. So I'm going to kick it over to our boy Cy here to speak on his New York Mets advancing to the NLCS after a crazy game that just wrapped about an hour ago. So I'm going to give you the floor to start us off here. This week.
Thank you, gentlemen. I want to give a shout out to Zach and Evan. They were patiently waiting to record this episode for me to lose my voice. I was already sick. I've been traveling, everything. And then I was like, I can't just sit at home for this game. So I went to a local bar with one of my coworkers, Matthias, giving him a shout out. And it was crazy. It was a Mets bar in Arlington. And the Mets are going to the NLCS, as Evan just mentioned. I truly cannot believe it. If you ask Mets fans at the beginning of the year, if you ask any fans at the beginning of the year, no one predicted this for us, especially when we were down 11 games in the first half of the season. And since June, have had the best record of baseball. And it's been a miracle run. I wish I even had the energy right now, but I've just been screaming at the top of my lungs, losing my voice already. I'm just so excited. I can't wait for the NLCS. It's been almost 10 years since we've been there. And it's the first time we've watched our team clinch a playoff series at home in Citi Field, which was truly special. Francisco Lindor, our MVP, turning things around, hitting a grand slam, just being Mr. Clutch all season. This is why baseball is beautiful. Anyone that tells me baseball is boring, all I got to say to you is you aren't watching it right, because it is one of the most amazing sports, and it'll give you the biggest ups, it'll give you the biggest downs, but playoff baseball is like nothing else, and I am so happy. Let's go Mets, NLCS time. That's all I got to say. We'll move on from there.
I have nothing to say. The people that think baseball is boring must be watching the Bob Costas games, though, because that is the worst announcer. He's so washed. But yeah, these playoffs have been unbelievable. That was a great series. I mean, they've all been fantastic, and still a couple series to wrap up here. But Zach, what do you got for us this
and if
week?
they let Chris Collinsworth actually, broadcast some of the MLB games, he would find some creative way to talk about Patrick Mahomes. So.
Hey, they've been showing Patrick Mahomes a lot at the broadcast tonight because he's at the game in Kansas City. So speaking of, but
that's true.
Anyways,
all right, gents.
Did you know Pat Mahomes' dad played for the Mets? By the way, quick fun fact there.
Oh no,
he did.
Yeah. There you go.
I didn't. Did you know Patrick Mahomes' son plays for Nebraska?
I did also know that. Yes, actually. Nice one there. That was good.
Dude, that guy is wild. He acts like he's not trying to copy Mahomes, but he literally, like, all of his mannerisms are the exact same. I'm like, bro, just like lead into it. Stop capping and, just admit it.
He even pumps the crowd up the same way. He's just like this. He wears the same shades.
Even the way he walks after he takes a hit is just Mahomes. He does the little Mahomes waddle that he does.
Yeah, that's wild. Speaking of what, college football has been awesome. Vanderbilt upsets Bama. Zach, do you have anything on that Hokies loss to Vanderbilt looking way better right now after one of the most wild upsets I've ever seen?
I actually think that the Hokies are way better than either of you have given them credit for. But even though they're better than the credit you've given them, there's that variance is still smaller than the gap that I thought they were going to be these magnificent giants who are never going to lose and where they are. And that is a wide gap. So I'm not even going to give Vanderbilt their flowers because they got super lucky. If this game was played 10 times, even on Vanderbilt turf, 9 out of 10 times, Bama would smoke them. Did you guys see the stat that Bama hasn't lost to them since like 1984? I mean, there's literally been 40 football seasons, and they haven't lost to Vanderbilt until this year. So congrats, Vandy. You got away with one. But I'm not impressed with their team, and I'm not really impressed with their quarterback. So I was really just like, I don't think Vanderbilt's good at all, man. I understand that Evan was teeing me up for the easiest question known to mankind. But Vanderbilt's not a good football team, and Virginia Tech lost to them, the armpit of the SEC, and we lost to the armpit of the Big Ten and Rutgers.
Yeah, I like mixing in some college football. That was a crazy weekend with all the top teams getting knocked off, Tennessee as well. And then it ended at like 2 a.m. with an unbelievable Miami comeback against Cal, helped by the refs once again, Zach. But Cam Ward is unbelievable. He makes a lot of bonehead mistakes, but I'm pumped to watch him at the next level next year after the draft. So.
I don't think Cam Ward is anything special, to be honest. He's very I'll say it, two-dimensional player. He looks like he's not trying half the time, which, okay, that's pretty cool. Like, get a little bit of swag for that, right? Like, he's making the hard plays look easy. I obviously know he's like one of the best quarterbacks that Miami has, been able to recruit really for a long time. And he's brought the U back a little bit, but just the way he throws the ball, it's a very like college football-y. It reminds me of like Tyrod Taylor or Taj Boyd, where they don't really have like the zip on the ball. They have the accuracy, but he doesn't really throw the ball very hard. And he is fast for college, but he's going to be a like slower-ish quarterback in the NFL. Like Jaden Daniels has so much more speed than a Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward he's more elusive, but I don't see any specialties that he's going to bring to the NFL. I think he's a very good college quarterback. That's what I'm saying. And the characteristics that he possesses on the field are great for a college football team. I don't want to take anything away from him and like his successes with transforming the U, giving them their identity back. Like that's great. When the U is good in college football, college football at large is a better sport. But I don't think he's going to translate into some amazing NFL quarterback anytime soon. And I also don't think he'll get drafted that early either. What are y'all's thoughts?
Yeah, I'm fine. I mean, I'm more on the decision making is insane. Like there were a couple decisions early in that Cal game, like one where he just completely throws it up for grabs and put them way behind the 8 ball and fell behind. But that comeback he led was unbelievable. I disagree about the arm strength. When I think when he needs it, he has it. He was fitting some just ridiculous windows to bring that comeback back. I'm not convinced he's going to be some good NFL quarterback, but definitely deserves his flowers for what he's done so far this year, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I think his traits are there for like some offensive coordinator in the NFL or offensive head coach to be like, I want him so I can like work with them, because I think he's got that kind of like, those tools that might be attractive to people. In terms of quarterbacks that impressed me this weekend, it might just be because I watched him cook us, but Dart, man, look out for Dart.
I like Dart.
He is nice with it. I mean, some of those throws he was making, I've seen some of his like games here and there, but to watch him for the majority of a game, admittedly at the same time as Mets playoff game, but he was making some throws where I was like, geez. And also Juice Wells is going to go to the NFL and be great too. Those two are that Ole Miss has a combo right there. That guy can throw the ball. I'm impressed.
Dart is my boy. Zach and I talked about him on I think it's probably the one you missed though, where he talks a little more college football, but he's
got the perfect name for it. Like if you don't turn into an NFL superstar, like, what do you even do?
I just like his vibe too. The eye black with like the one side of the face, like all the way to, I'm in.
I like him.
I think he's got good tweet skills as well. He was active on X, as you guys know, for a reason, because of a boneheaded play by a South Carolina Gamecock. And also, I'm not going to describe this right. We're trying to monetize on YouTube, but this has become a trend I've seen in college football, and these athletes seem to be disciplined here. That is not good celebratory behavior right there, guys.
I'm not going to pick on the decision because it was just so hilarious. The celebration. He emptied the clip off him.
Insane.
Listen, first of all, DJ Stork, who did it, he is a force to be reckoned with, and this man hopefully will stay at South Carolina, but just watch out for him because he's going to go high in the NFL draft. He is nasty. He's a true freshman, and he's leading the SEC. He's like up there in sacks. But regardless of how good you are, that celebration is not acceptable, as great of a sack as it was. It was a big play, too. Like, it was a momentum shifter. We needed the ball. But I love Shane Beamer because he did not hold back at all. He ripped into him. He was like, that was disgusting or something. He said something along the lines of, he was like, you just can't do that. So you need to hold him accountable for that. That was crazy, though. I can't believe he did that.
I got a good chuckle out of it. I'm glad Zach mentioned it here.
I was so mad, man. I was like, we got this massive sack. It would have been a huge, like, fourth down. And then you gotta, are you kidding me? You can't get a personal foul there. We had lost the game against LSU for close plays like that. Yeah.
I love it. Anyways, but anything else before we jump into the NFL games from last week?
I'm ready for NFL.
I
Now
feel
let's
like
jump into it.
we got to go back and
get right into Salah.
I guess actually, yeah, some breaking news. Robert Saleh canned by the Jets after their game in London. Zach, I guess you brought it up. So do you have an opinion on it to get us started?
Well, I was ready for the epic transition from Vanderbilt to Salah, and I was actually going to pick on Jordan Rodgers, the ex-Bachelor who played at Vanderbilt, quarterback, to Aaron Rodgers to Robert Salah. And here's my perspective on the matter. Aaron Rodgers stating, I know Sai's like, how do I put up with these two idiots?
That's just insane behavior to do
that. All right. So in terms of Robert Salah, Aaron Rodgers went on the Pat McAfee show, and he said that he was dumbfounded. I forget what the actual quote was. I'm paraphrasing, but he was alarmed. He resented the fact that all of social media and people who watch football at large thought that there was a correlation between him having a discussion with the owner and then one day later, the owner firing Robert Salah. Although he said he abdicated himself of any conversations that may or may not have had, he said that he strictly was talking to the owner about his performance and how that they're going to get things back on track and what they need to do to fix it. The fact that people believe that Aaron Rodgers did not talk about Robert Salah is crazy to me. Of course he did. 100%. That was the majority of the discussion. And I know, and I have proof of why this is the case, even though Aaron Rodgers denies. The proof is in the pudding. Nathaniel Hackett is still a Jet. He's still on the coaching staff. If there were to be one person that'd be fired, it would be Nathaniel Hackett because of his lackluster offensive performance with one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Robert Salah is a defensive-minded coach. He's never once coached the offensive plays, and the Jets are second in the entire league in points and yards given up. Yards given up. They're like 6th or 7th in the league in points given up. The defense is still balling out right now as scheduled. There's been no difference. The Jets defense is still very much feared in the NFL. So if Robert Salah is more of like the people's coach and a defensive-minded guy, then don't we think the offensive coordinator gets the bulk of the blame? But because Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett are boys and they've got a lot of history dating back to Green Bay, and somehow Nathaniel Hackett stays, but Robert Salah gets let go, that just goes to show me that is proof that Aaron Rodgers 100% voiced his frustrations with Salah. They had that weird moment where they were kind of like pushing a push hug a couple years or a couple games back. I just think, and I know that Aaron Rodgers absolutely said something to get Robert Salah fired. Gents, what do you guys think about that?
I can jump in real quick, Ev. I don't know that I don't think it was Rodgers. I don't think it was Rodgers being like, I need Salah out for me to like be, content or happy with this team. I just believe like they felt like they had to like go after someone for some reason because of their start or because of the expectations the team has. I'm just confused though, because regardless of whether it was Rodgers, regardless of who it was, I think it was a wrong decision. I mean, it's not like the Jets are like some bottom feeding team. Their defense has been great. In the last couple of years, they got Rodgers. He gets hurt literally the first drive of the season, and they managed to compete somehow, even though Zach Wilson's been awful. Their backups haven't been good. It's not like they've gotten this it's not like he's had this team where like all the chips are falling into place. He's had a great defense. He's had good personnel around him. But he's had to deal with a lot of adversity this entire time there. And I think he's done a solid job of putting together a competitive team. They've won some pretty decent games along the way. And I think you just got to give them the time. Rodgers just played 5 games since he's been back from his Achilles. Like, how can you immediately make this decision to move on? Like, who is available to them to immediately replace him? It's not like they even have someone definitively that's going to be some superstar head coach that's ready to come out and help them go win football games right now, right? I think this is totally unfair to Salah. I think he's going to end up somewhere great, though. I think Robert Salah is like a defensive genius. Obviously, he was in that 49ers system. Maybe he'll end up as a D coordinator again, but I really hope he gets a head coaching opportunity somewhere else because I do think he's a good leader of men, and I think a lot of those guys that came up under his tutelage, the young guys, especially on the defense, like Sauce Gardner and Kenan Williams, are going to miss him a lot. And I think, I don't know, I'm not happy with it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't think that's how it went down. I'm going to disagree with you, Zach. I mean, like the only person that said anything on it is Aaron, so I'm going to choose to believe him. And I just think it was another owner with a quick trigger. He got frustrated. The interesting thing is Eric Mangini, former Jets coach, said prior to this London game um, that if they lost, it was going to be really bad for the Jets because I guess the owner, spends a lot of time in London, has a lot of friends in London that were going to be at the game. So if he lost in front of them, he was going to be really embarrassed. He didn't say that he was going to then fire Saleh, but he kind of predicted that something would happen. And this owner is pretty notorious for this. He's kind of the David Tepper, Dan Snyder mold. So I think it was just an over that got frustrated with another loss and a disappointing start to the season, completely overreacts. I do agree that Nate Hackett probably was in a situation that he could have been fired, which would have made a lot of sense. So maybe it was the owner trying to appease Rodgers without him asking, which is how Aaron is now able to say that he had nothing to do with it. And maybe the owner was like, all right, I'm going to keep Aaron happy and keep Hackett and keep the band together. And maybe he goes and trades for Adams as a further extension of that goodwill. But I don't know. I choose to believe Aaron. I agree with Sai. Yeah, I think it was certainly a quick trigger. And to do that before a game where if you win on Monday night, you're all of a sudden, maybe favored to win the division, or at least you have the kind of the upper hand as of now. I mean, to do it, now is a little wild to me. So see how it plays out. But
And Zach, I will also say this: Aaron's crazy enough to just outright say, "Yeah, I asked for it." If he did, I feel like he's one of those people that's actually crazy enough to just admit that, especially on the McAfee show. So I'll also say that.
I guess otherwise, I want to make sure this game doesn't get lost, even though at this point it's been almost a full week ago. But the Tampa Bay Atlanta game on Thursday Night Football last week was one of the best of the year. So we got our Atlanta fan on the line here. They find a way to pull it out. Tampa completely blew that game. Bucky Irving with a rookie mistake on the fumble, and then just some horrible game management from Todd Bowles, which is just classic from him. But hey, Atlanta pulls it out. Hodge with the walk-off touchdown. So, Zach, how are we feeling about this division after that one?
Well, and what was really fitting was it was Matt Ryan's Ring of Honor night, and in Matt Ryan's 12 to 14-year career with the Falcons, numbers escaping me, I don't think he ever once threw for 500 yards. Kirk Cousins does it in one night after 4 weeks of playing with this football team in a regular season fashion, and just goes out there and lights it up. One of my favorite parts about Kirk Cousins, and the reason why we went out and got him in the free agency, is how he incorporates all of his receivers. He's done this his entire career, whether it was in Washington or Minnesota. He distributes the ball very effectively. So he gets a lot of different receivers involved. He is playing a lot more confidently than he did the first couple of games. Ev, you had pointed out earlier on a podcast that he did look a little shaky the first couple of weeks, looked very limited in his movement, tried to get the ball out quickly. All of that was super accurate. In this game, he steps up, makes these big throws. I thought the offensive line played a lot better. Bijan was great in between the 20s.
No, he wasn't.
He was, but he didn't score. I mean, he's not a goal line back, which I'm recognizing. Kyle Pitts played a lot better. Drake London's taking the next step forward. But most importantly, Darnell Mooney is just making head waves around the NFL right now. I think he's the most underrated player, the biggest breakout player so far in the NFL out of any other player. I would like to see you guys prove me wrong on that, but I think Darnell Mooney is the biggest breakout player through 5 weeks in the entire NFL. But before we get into that, I'm just curious, Sal, I'll kick it over your way. Any thoughts on that game in particular?
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about it last week. I know Evan wasn't on last week, but I was saying, someone like Kirk, if I remember correctly, it was you or someone else on the podcast that was giving him flack for maybe not showing up the way that he should. And I just believe that when you come off an Achilles and you're older, right, it's going to take some time to get your feet under you, quite literally get your feet under you and start moving the ball the way that people know you're capable of. And I felt like this was coming. It's why I said I think Kyle Pitts is going to get over 80 yards this game, because I just felt like the week prior was more of a fluke than it was. I mean, whether he's a Hall of Famer or not, that's a different question. But he's better than he was earlier, right? And I didn't expect 500 yards, but I expected a really good game out of Kirk, which is why I think you and I both picked the Falcons to win last week, because we expected them to do better. That was unbelievably impressive to me, though, because the irony is we talked about how good your defense has been playing, and they were actually probably awful is the word I would describe last week. I mean, it was like a Swiss cheese defense last week. I mean, Bucks were picking them apart. But then your offense was like, it's almost like your defense needed to be bad for your offense to just unleash themselves a little bit and start like airing the ball out more. And now I think you've kind of established yourself as like a get Kirk the ball and start picking defenses apart. I'll talk about it a little bit later, but that's the advantage that veteran quarterbacks have in this modern league, right? Because it's so scheme based, and I think quarterbacks, like, even if you watch Joe Flacco this week and he was picking apart defense, because the old heads are so good at knowing where to pick apart coverage, right? Like they know this is where the guy's going to be open because they're reading the field, and Kirk is so good at that. And now that he's getting his feet under him, the offensive ceiling is unbelievable. I'm not going to argue with you that Mooney is one of the biggest breakout, if not the biggest breakout players, because I always loved that Mooney acquisition. He was, he showed flashes years ago with the Bears, but they never had the quarterback play to keep him consistent. He's a perfect number 2 option across from Drake London, especially with all the other weapons they have. Even Ray McLeod and Hodge and them are running good routes, man. It's an offense that's got some depth to it. I love Bijan, as you guys know, and even Tyler Algier is like a great second running back. This offense doesn't really have a weakness right now if Kirk is playing well. So I just would like to see your defense kind of get back to their ways, but this Falcons team ceiling is unbelievable. I felt that way to start the year. Like, this is the first time we've seen their offense show it. Now, if you put the two together, they're going to be a hard team to beat. So I'm all in.
I still think the Bucs are winning the division. Their schedule works against them, but I thought the Bucs were the better team on that field. They killed themselves at the end and made a lot of mistakes. The schedule is way harder, so maybe they won't end up getting it done. But I thought they were a better team, and I still think that. So, but the Falcons look good. I do think they're a playoff team for sure. So I think it's going to be a really interesting division. The Saints are going to be nowhere to be found now that Carr is out for a few games, and they just look bad in general. So I think it's a 2-team race there, but I think it'll be a good one. What else we got? What's the next game you guys want to jump to?
I'll just quickly touch on it. Panthers with just a nightmare situation going up to Chicago, having the guy that really would have landed to them in Caleb Williams if they didn't make that horrific trade, who goes off 350 plus yards, multiple touchdowns, smoked them 36-10. And the worst case scenario, DJ Moore, 2 touchdowns, went absolutely dumb on J.C. Horn and that Carolina Panthers secondary. You really hate to see it. I don't really know if we need to spend any more time on it, but that's just got to really be a gut punch if you're a Panthers fan. Going up to Chicago, who you just did business with and traded all your players to, and DJ Moore, who was nothing but great for your whole organization, just 2 touchdowns, went crazy on them. And Caleb Williams did too, man. So I
want to say that DJ Moore had this game circled, against the old team. But the irony is he can't even have spite because they were so bad the whole time he was there. He was like one of the only good pieces. He has nothing. He's actually probably so grateful they traded him away. He probably wanted to do him a favor, honestly. Like, he's probably so happy right now. The number one takeaway I want to take from this is, we saw Andy Dalton have a couple good weeks, but the Panthers' ceiling is still one of the worst teams in the NFL. We're just going to have to get used to that. They obviously have pieces to build around: Deontay, Xavier Legette. Chuba Hubbard has looked great for weeks, so I want to give him credit. But their defense is terrible. They don't have enough of quarterback play right now to be successful. They got to figure that out. The number one takeaway I want to talk about, though, is Caleb Williams. This was his coming out party. Mm-hmm. Like, as Zach alluded to, over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, 20 of 29 passing. Obviously, the Panthers' defense isn't good, so it's going to help inflate your numbers. But some of the throws he was making earlier in the year are now translating into real receptions and touchdowns. Seeing DJ Moore get 2 touchdowns will be really beneficial to the offense, and I think it's going to get them churning. I think we're going to see more good games out of him and Odunze. We haven't even seen a good game out of Allen yet. I think he's due for one down the road. I think Caleb's going to start heating up, and watch out for him in the second half. He's on his way now. He needed one of these.
Yep. No notes. I'm not sure I'm not sure many people saw that game though. So I'm not sure if it's his coming out party in the eyes of, the more casual audience, because I don't think a whole lot of people were watching Bears Panthers. But the team played well as a whole. They're running the ball better now too, which is huge for Caleb. But he looked great. No notes on that. Ravens. There's a couple games I want to talk about here, kind of in tandem of these elite teams. Actually, no, the Bengals are not an elite team, but Like
I wouldn't
Zach
say the
Taylor
Ravens
and
are.
Sean McDermott just completely blowing games. That Ravens-Bengals game was utterly insane. The Ravens find a way to pull it out. The Bengals offense continues to be unstoppable, but their defense just cannot do them any favors. I think they just had a big torn ACL to was it Dax Hill, one of their top corners? Got his name,
Troy Hill, yeah.
Troy Hill. So they're in bad shape, but the Ravens find a way to pull out a tough division win. In a nuts game. Justin Tucker looks like he's gotten over some of his kicking issues. So, but yeah, Zach Taylor's probably trending towards being fired this year, unless they can find a way to make the playoffs. I just, I don't know.
I'm not the biggest Zach Taylor fan. I don't pretend to be, but I think that would be incredibly unfair to a guy that's made it to a Super Bowl and made it to an AFC Championship and has been one of the only coaches to beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. And then last year loses Joe Burrow to injury and then loses T. Higgins to injury and at times loses Jamar Chase to injury. I mean, to be fair to Zach Stacy, his resume is impressive enough over the span of Joe Burrow's career to give him more than this year. I know last year he didn't do well, but what is he supposed to do when half his team is out? And then also they gave up half their defense. The offense looked terrific. Again, this is why I'm not out on. They might be 1-4, and you guys might think I'm crazy, but I'm still not out on the Bengals. They got to figure it out on defense. I hope they do, but that offense is unstoppable, man. I mean, that's Baltimore. Like it's not like some run of the mill team. They made Baltimore look like Swiss cheese, like I was talking about earlier. Also, to be fair, you're right. The Bengals are not elite, but I'm not about to sit here and say the Ravens are elite if you're going to tell me the Bengals aren't, because the Bengals basically gave them that game. Otherwise, the Ravens were about to lose that one too. Yeah, they had one great win against the Bills, but they've also managed to lose multiple games in a fashion. They lost to the Raiders 2 weeks ago. Like, I'm supposed to think they're elite? No. I'm not giving them that credit yet. They got some things to figure out too. Their defense does not look good at all. The Bills game was good, but that's about it. So, and like you said, if you're looking at their best and their worst, the middle games don't look that good to me. So I don't think either of those two games are elite. But I will say, good point about the Bills. They totally blew that one after coming back against the Texans. Texans should be so thankful that they got a free field goal opportunity with one of the best field goal kickers in the league, because for some reason they tried to throw out of the back of their end zone like 4 times with no time left on the clock. What are you doing? Like, what? Like, my 10-year-old cousin could have called a better play than that. Like, that was ridiculous. I don't know. That was just absurd to me. Poor Josh Allen. The man is trying to carry this team on his back, and this is what he has to deal with right now. It's ridiculous.
Zach.
Yeah, the only thing I have to say is the Bengals over-under win count right now is 7.5. I think hammering the over is actually perfect. I kind of lean size direction. Joe Burrow leads the league in touchdown passes, yet they're 1-4. I think that they're going to start to turn this around, and I think you're going to see it next week. This team, Evan, like you mentioned it on a previous pod, they start really slow. They historically have done that. Maybe not 1-4 slow, but I can absolutely see this team being an 8-9 team by the end of the year. They're that talented.
Well, who cares if they're 8-9 though, Zach? That's not a playoff team, so who cares?
Evan,
I'm done with the Bengals. I'm done talking. I'm done with the Bengals. All right. I've never seen a team live off one game more than this team. 3 years ago, they beat Mahomes and they made the Super Bowl. Great. They almost won the Super Bowl. And that has carried their legacy for about 4 years now, and I'm done with it. All right. I am burying the Bengals. Their season is over. They're not making the playoffs. And I'm kind of done with all these people talking about the Bengals because of that one time they beat Patrick Mahomes, all right? I've had enough of it. Their defense is not going to be fixed is the main issue.
The year after they made the Super Bowl, they went to the playoffs again, went to Buffalo, beat Josh Allen in Buffalo, won another playoff game, went to the next one, and then they lost to the Chiefs. So I would say it's more than just a Super Bowl run, to be fair. But the one thing I will say, to be fair, I get where you're coming from, and I don't fault you for saying they're not going to be a playoff team. But I do want to take 1 second to try to convince you to think about the over of 7 games that Zach mentioned as a good futures bet. Because what 3 teams have they lost to? They lost to your Commanders, who have proven that they are a good team in a very close game. They lost to the Ravens in a game they probably should have won and blew at the very end. And they lost to the defending Super Bowl champion, the Chiefs. The 3 teams that they've lost to, we've all alluded to as being either 2 of the best teams in the league last year or an up-and-coming team that is beating pretty much everyone right now in your Commanders, who we can segue to in a second. And then they beat the Panthers. So The three teams they've lost to are three of the in your minds. Even though I don't consider the Ravens elite, I think you consider those three teams three of the best teams in the NFL, right? So that's all I have to say. Their schedule gets easier, and their offense is getting better as we go because they were hurt. Jamar Chase came in not practicing, and T. Higgins was hurt. Joe Burrow was looking hurt. They look better as they go, and they're playing an easier schedule. That's the only reason I think Zach's prediction of 7 games, whether you think they make the playoffs or not, winning 7, I think is very doable for them. I think they'll get 8 wins. It's a good futures bet. That's all I'm saying.
Who was the 4th loss?
They have 3 losses, right?
Yeah, 4.
Is it
No,
4?
4.
Oh,
Yeah,
man, sorry. 5 weeks.
Yeah, figure it out, Si. Who was the 4th loss?
Oh, no. That's not a good look for me.
And they almost lost that Panthers game, by the way. Their only win is barely beating the Panthers. It was, they had it, but like they almost blew it.
I
So
think they're better now than they were then for sure.
their defense is getting worse because guys keep getting hurt. They've also had offensive line injuries. I'm not worried about the offense though at all. I agree with you guys there, but I'm fed up with all the Bengals talk. All right, I've had enough.
I get it. Yeah, I get it.
But yeah, the Bills. Sean McDermott has done so many things that should have gotten him fired. Now, I'm not saying because obviously all the positives, but like someone like Si said, like I'm like at a loss for words as to how an NFL coach would be making that decision. Like I get like give Josh Allen one throw opportunity to get it out. If it's incomplete, you just don't have like or there's too much time on the clock to just like keep trying that. You got to run the ball and just bleed that thing out. I mean, they basically punted it into field goal range. It was one play for the Texans, and with Fairbairn, you can kick it like 60 yards. I mean, that was the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen. It reminded me of, some of the decisions he made in that Chiefs, AFC Championship game, like from like 3 years ago, where it was, the Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes going back and forth game, and the Gabe Davis game, that one, where the Bills did everything to win, and then McDermott just threw it away. I mean, I don't know what to say about Sean McDermott, but the one thing I wanted to say on the Bills is I think a couple weeks ago, maybe it was Si, I forget who it was, one of you guys, talking about the impact of losing that true number one receiver. And I think they're really starting to feel that you've seen in the last 2 games where the offense has really struggled and the receivers just are not getting open. Khalil Shakir was for a while, and he's been banged up. Kincaid's been disappointing. So I think they're really starting to feel that, and the offense is really starting to struggle. Josh Allen's banged up. So I don't know where this is going to go for the Bills, but it's going to be interesting on Monday night.
Yeah. It's not optimal, but I'm not out on them yet. At least in terms of competing in the AFC, I don't think they're gonna be a Super Bowl threat. But I'm not on them.
Bad division. So
I did
going 9 for 30 is rough, though. That's what Josh Allen's stats were. 9 for 30.
Good defense, but it was bad. It was bad.
I do want to say C.J. Stroud did not look very good at the end of that game, though. They're gonna miss Nico Collins. Mm-hmm. That's a bummer. He's been one of the best receivers in the league this year. But C.J. Stroud at the end, I think, had like back-to-back turnovers. So for as much love as we give him, every now and then we should, give him crap, because it seems like for some reason he's like foolproof because he's, he won a playoff game last year as a rookie, but people don't want to give him. He's one of those guys that gets all the flowers but no, crap when things aren't going well. I'm going to call him out because the only reason that game was close is because they had the lead by double digits, and then he goes and throws an interception and then fumbles the ball, I think it was, in back-to-back possessions to give the Bills an opportunity. So I just want to throw that out there. And now Nico Collins is out, so we'll see what happens there. But hopefully Tank Dell will step up there.
Well, speaking of quarterbacks that need to deserve some crap, I'm going to transition over to a matchup where there's a dichotomy between a quarterback that's making a penniless contract in the grand scheme of things of what quarterbacks make, and Jaden Daniels waking up at 4 a.m., being extremely disciplined, earning the respect of his teammates as a rookie, leading Washington to an unprecedented season. I don't think I've ever seen Washington be 4-1 in a long time, putting up the points they're putting up. And then I also see a $200 million guaranteed player in Deshaun Watson, who is so lethargic and has lost all the support in the locker room. His teammates are rallying around him. He got yelled at by Kevin Stefanski because he was just lollygagging around, walking to the sideline like he wanted to quit. I mean, he literally quit on his teammates and didn't hustle, didn't have any drive to stay on the field on 4th down. It was just abysmal. And it's just the fact that Washington is rallying around this rookie quarterback on a rookie contract who is just grateful to be there, learning a ton, working with one of the best offensive coordinators in the game, and taking his role extremely seriously, waking up at 4 a.m. consistently, etc. Then you got Deshaun Watson, who doesn't even want to play. I mean, when you're walking to the sideline like that and your head coach is to chew you out on live TV, just not a good look for a $200 million player. I think it's safe to say that this is the worst NFL contract in history. And it's not even close. So we can focus maybe more on the game, but I just wanted to point out the dichotomy between someone who's playing for the love of the game and one who's maxed out his contract and really could care less about how his team does.
Yeah, I'm all aboard the Commanders train. I'm at this point. Like last week, I was like, okay, we got to see them play a good defense. I thought they were good. I thought they were going to be like a playoff contender. No, they have a chance to really, take the roof off the NFC right now, especially with teams like the 49ers and other teams who we expect to be perennial threats, the Eagles, other teams like that who aren't quite as, put together as we thought they were. I actually think NFC overall, I mean, the Minnesota Vikings have been the best team in the NFC, and you can't really take that away from them. But the reality is it's pretty wide open. Like nobody seems like too daunting in that conference where they're unbeatable right now. I mean, you just saw the Cardinals beat the 49ers. So I got to give Zach props here. He called that one. And I'm typing the cap on that one. But yeah, no, the Commanders could do it. Jaden looks awesome. Even when he makes a mistake, he manages to like just shake it off and then immediately get back out there and act like a veteran. And it's so impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And then beyond that, I feel so like relieved for all these weapons that have been on that offense the last couple of years, but have dealt with terrible like coaching and terrible quarterback play, because guys like Brian Robinson and Terry McLaurin and these guys that have just been like waiting for the opportunity to like shine and get the ball in their hands and opportunities to make plays are getting those, and you're just seeing them show up. The other thing I will say is I was giving the Commanders defense flack last week for maybe not being good enough. I mean, to be fair, as Zach alluded to, the Browns offense has not been very good, but they showed up again another week. And all they need to do is be good enough. Like they don't need to be amazing. They don't need to shut a team down, but if this offense is going to play the way they need to be good enough. I don't know. It's going to take a long time for me to jump on the Cliff Kingsbury train, but I can't give him crap because he's doing a good job right now. So it drives me crazy. I don't understand how where this came from, but it is what it is. We'll see where it takes him.
Yeah, Cliff has been unbelievable. A lot of people owe him an apology right now. Yeah, I don't have a ton to add. Like I think you pointed out the thing I was going to mention, which was just, Jaden bouncing back from a little adversity early in the game where Jim Schwartz was doing a good job and offense was struggling a little bit. He throws a pick in the red zone and just shakes it off like nothing, nothing happened. And another cool moment was the De'Ami Brown, 40-yard, bomb before the half.
Oh, yeah.
Jaden had scrambled the play before. And this is the best thing about Cliff Kingsbury is that he listens to his players. So Jaden had scrambled the play before and it was right near Cliff Kingsbury on the sideline. And he noticed that they were playing man coverage and he goes, Cliff, they're playing man, let's throw a deep ball. And Cliff says, all right, let's do it. And it's wide open to De'Ami Brown for a touchdown before the half, basically kind of seal the game. But the defense is exciting because, in between the second and third games, or the fourth and fifth games, I think, Joe Witt, the defensive coordinator, who's a first-year defensive coordinator, worked with Quinn on the staff last time, really simplified the play calling. And he kind of said I was overcomplicating things the first couple of weeks. And there was, you could see on the field, there was just a ton of miscommunication and missed assignments and things like that. And in between, he said, I'm just going to simplify things, simplify the play calling. And it seems to have really worked. We'll see how it looks against a better defense. The run defense still needs to improve a little bit. But, yeah, shout out Frankie Louvu. That dude is unbelievable. Him and Wagner's, maybe the best linebacker duo in the league. Those two are just absolute studs. They're going to need another cornerback at the trade deadline, but if they can do that, they're going to be in good shape. And if they beat Baltimore on Sunday, I think Cy's starting to get there, and I'm not there yet. But it's no longer going to be, this team can make the playoffs. This team can win the NFC East. It was if they beat Baltimore on Sunday, the talk is going to be Jane Daniels can be the MVP as a rookie, and this team could potentially make the Super Bowl. That's where this narrative and this rhetoric is going to go if they beat Baltimore. I'm not sure they're going to. I'm not sure I'm there yet, but that is where this conversation is going to start to go if they win on Sunday, which is unbelievable to think. And that's going to be game of the year. Lamar and Jaden. It's a damn shame they couldn't flex it to Sunday night, but at least we get Jim Nantz and Tony Romo on the call. But we'll see.
Yo, can I just say something real quick about that, Zach? why do we keep getting the damn Cowboys on Sunday Night Football in these whack-ass games when we could be getting these kinds of matchups? It is absurd. They are not America's team anymore. They're not going to win a damn Super Bowl. Stop wasting our time with these games. There were so many good games this Sunday that were 1 p.m. games all happening at the same time where the nation couldn't keep up with it. We had to watch the damn Cowboys on Sunday night again. I'm so tired of this nonsense. Anyway, go ahead, Zach.
It's all about the media rights, because I think CBS, or I guess NBC rather, tried to call CBS and be like, hey, can we flex this? And I think the rule maybe is that if CBS makes it their top game of the week, then NBC can't steal it, I think is maybe the rule. So then I think CBS decided, okay, we'll put Nance and Romo on this game so we can keep it. But I'm actually going to Sunday Night Football this week, and it's Giants Bengals is Sunday Night Football this week. Like, can you imagine a worse game?
Hopefully Malik Neighbors plays, and you're going to watch the best receiver matchup you'll watch all year.
I know. Talk about unbelievable rookies. We didn't get to talk about Malik this week because he was out. But what other games we got, boys, before we jump into picks?
Yeah, what you got, Zach?
I mean, I'll pick on Giants and Seahawks while we talked about Giants. That was a big upset in Seattle. 12th man, no more. Isaiah Simmons, who I had talked about on the podcast, making a big impact. True win for his team. I know they were up 23-20, but he jumped over the offensive line and blocked the field goal. And then I'm not sure if you guys saw the highlight, but he took a nice shot at the kicker while he had a chance. Put him on his ass. That was the whole play was really funny. And it goes to show you, I'll ask you guys this. There's a bunch of 3-2 quasi good, maybe not elite NFC teams. The Packers, the Seahawks, the Falcons, the Buccaneers. Do you think that these teams could take down some of the AFC juggernauts? I'm talking the Chiefs, and we'll throw the Ravens in there because I think the Ravens are going to be division leaders. Do you think that these NFC teams have the potential to take down some of these AFC juggernauts? Because it has been AFC a lot more than NFC over the last couple of years.
You can go first, Evan.
You mean it's been the Chiefs?
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
But
put the words out of my mouth. Yeah,
that was like when Sai saying Baltimore is not elite. If Baltimore is not elite, who is elite other than the Chiefs who haven't lost a game? It's kind of one of those situations. Just a lot of teams are blowing a lot of games. I mean, throw San Francisco into that mix. I'm not convinced San Francisco is even a playoff team at this point with a lot of the guys they have out, and they blew another bad game. So, I think there's a lot we need to see. I mean, it's basically Chiefs on a tier of their own, and then
Houston is 4-1. I get
Houston's
I'm not
good.
a big fan of Houston, but you got to give them at least some flowers.
Minnesota, but
4-1.
I think the Lions are still the best team in the NFC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't seen enough to change my mind off of that. I agree with you. I'm fascinated to see what happens this week because the 49ers blew a bad one. Now, granted, their kicker got hurt, which hurt them a lot. Which, by the way, I have a new betting strategy that if a team's kicker gets injured in the middle of a game, you got to bet the other team because that matters so much. Like the Commanders should have lost to the Giants if Greg Minot doesn't get hurt on the first play of the game. The Giants probably win that game in week 2. But the 49ers blew a bad one, and so did Seattle didn't necessarily blow it; they never had it. And then they play tomorrow night after both teams miss a huge opportunity to take control of that division and. Whoever wins tomorrow, I believe it's in Seattle, is going to have the upper hand on the division. And there's a lot of teams, like Zach said, in that middle range. So I don't know if you really want to fall under the wild card mix this year with so many teams in play. But I think all those teams are pretty good. I think they're all good, not great in the NFC.
Yeah, I'm piggybacking off of Evan there. I think the NFC's definitely got more above average teams, and I think the AFC has just obviously the undeniable team in the Chiefs, but I don't think as a whole the AFC conference is as maybe as good as the NFC, at least in terms of playoff teams. But the issue is nobody can beat the Chiefs. And the funny part is the Chiefs are 5-0 now, and half their team is injured. It's ridiculous. I mean, you would think at some point they're going to start losing games because they're literally playing backups across multiple positions. So I will say that going off that though real quick, my Colts lost to the Jaguars who were 0-4 coming into this week. And regardless of that, in Jacksonville, close game, whatever it is, we lost to them. Zach called it. Me and Evan had the Colts, came down to the wire. I just want to take a minute to give old man Flacco his flowers. He walked out there, what is it, another year, about 40 years old. He walks out there with Jonathan Taylor out, DeForest Buckner out, Kwity Paye out, Kenny Moore out, Juju Brent's out. Basically, half the team is out, and he managed to almost win that game by throwing for like 350 yards and like 3 touchdowns and throwing bombs to Alec Pierce. It's ridiculous. I don't know where this Flacco is coming from. It's the same one from the Browns last year. I just got to give this guy credit. Like to be that, stage of his career, he has nothing to lose and he's going out there playing that way, not making mistakes. Just impressive, man. It shows why it's important to have a good backup quarterback. But beyond all that, it also shows why veterans, like I always think of what Manning and Brady would have done in this era of football against these kinds of defenses. Like the mind, like the mental aspect of football right now is the way to dissect these defenses because it's a completely different game now.
That's all Flacco does is ball.
He balls, man.
Flacco's a stud.
He's elite, or is he?
He's an elite backup. I was shocked that there wasn't more interest in him. Like a team like Miami, like knowing with Tua's situation, obviously it's easy to say in hindsight, but like, teams like that really should have been more on, and the Colts obviously are one of those teams with, Richardson's inability to prove he can be healthy. But, and then the Cowboys, obviously that was a mucky game with the rain and everything, but that's an impressive win. That's an impressive win for Dallas, and that keeps them, they haven't looked too good, but that keeps them in the mix. And I think a team like Philly is going to start, getting really nervous here with all the depth in the wild card situation, like the Commanders obviously in the division and, Dallas still being in the mix. So I think things are going to be looking rough in Philly here very soon, although they do play the Browns this week, so that's a free win.
Well, and they're all coming back healthy too. Like once A.J. Brown comes back and Devontae Smith comes back, I think the Eagles are going to actually start playing really good football pretty soon.
I don't know. We talked about this last week. I don't think Evan was on, but I agree with you, Zach. I think this is a shell of what they're capable of being. I don't think they're going to come out and be the best team in the NFC immediately, but I definitely think they're going to be better than they are now. And I think that's, definitely true.
Like, let me ask you guys this. If a Seattle, like I'm picking on these 3 and 2s, we'll say like the Atlanta, Seattle level, we'll ignore the Bucks because the Bucks already played the Commanders. Saad, you think that the Commanders are good enough to beat these solid 3 and 2, 3 and 1? We can even throw Detroit in there. Like, I just don't know if the Commanders are good enough to like consistently beat these 3 and 2 teams in the NFC.
Well, to be fair, I mean, there's only so many teams that can consistently win against teams that have, winning records, but it depends on the matchup, right? Like I could see the Commanders and the Falcons having a nice toss-up game. Would I pick the Lions over the Commanders? Probably, but could I see the Commanders beating them? Yes. I think the Commanders have a chance to beat any of these teams. What I have to see is what happens. Like Cleveland was a good example of what happens when they play a good defense. I'm really curious to see what happens when they play a good defense and a good offense, right? Because the linebacking core, as Evan alluded to, is very good. The Browns' offense is just whack because they have good weapons, but they don't know how to use them right now with bad quarterback play and everything else. The secondary is what's susceptible, right? Because we watched the Bengals game, and it was this crazy shootout game, similar to the Bengals-Ravens game, where it felt like there was no defense and a bunch of offense. It'll be really interesting to watch them play the Lions because the Lions have a solid defense and then a really good offense. Like that'll be a good test of like, because that's a true NFC playoff contender, right? But I still think I think the Commanders are like in that tier right behind the Lions, though, because how many teams can you definitively say are better than them in the NFC? Like I mean, I think even the Falcons, like, can you say the Falcons are already as good as, if not better than the Commanders? They might get there.
I think you can because of their defense.
I mean, you have to see the offense and defense play together at the same time, though. I would argue that the Commanders and Falcons are on the same tier right now, because the Commanders, first of all, they have a better record, right? Or is it the same record?
4-1. Commanders are 4-1.
They have a better record, and they have managed to beat. They just got a big win just now. The Falcons just had a huge game. Obviously, losing the Chiefs is not against them, but I think they're probably in that same range. Nothing definitively can tell me one is better than the other. It'd be a really fun matchup to watch those two play, though. I would love to see that as a playoff matchup. It's like the old head Kirk Cousins against the young guy Jaden Daniels. That'd be an awesome matchup.
Ev, what are your thoughts?
I think the only team in the NFC that can say with a fair degree of confidence that they're better than every other team in the NFC is the Vikings. I don't think that's going to stick the whole year. But I think obviously with what they've done, they've beaten some of the best teams in the league, or at least we think. Houston, Green Bay, like all these games they've won. So I think they're definitively through 5 games the best team in the NFC. And then I think every single other team from even Detroit down to Washington, Atlanta, all the teams you mentioned would be able to argue that they could even be 2 or they could even be 10 or something. And then I think eventually Detroit. I still think Detroit will become the one. I think San Francisco probably gets up towards that level, and then we'll see. But I think there's a slew of 6 or 8 teams that you mentioned that have can't say definitively they're better than one another, but could definitely make an argument. So
I do think when it's all said and done, San Francisco will still be the best team in the NFC. Personally, they've dealt with some injuries, some in and out situations. Ayuk obviously didn't come into training camp, but he finally just had his massive game and his breakout. Debo's getting back healthy again, and at some point they are actually supposed to get Christian McCaffrey back. Apparently, from what I'm most recently reading, but honestly, they can get back to playoff contention without him. And then if they can get him back towards like the latter half of the season, like we're looking at them getting back to what they were last year, and that's a team that almost won the Super Bowl. Like it took a miraculous Patrick Mahomes game that he inevitably has for them to lose. So I'm not out on the 49ers. It's very early, and we're 5 weeks in. So week 6 is coming up. It's too early to tell.
I'm not out on the 49ers, but you know what I am out on? Kyle Shanahan's ability to close games. That dude can really blow a lead, as we've seen. Just in the Super Bowl, just this week, he proved it again. He really struggles in the fourth quarter to coach up a game. So I'm not out on the 49ers, but I am out on him as a fourth quarter coach.
I'll still take him for 3.5, though. I'll still take him.
He's got to build. He usually builds up big enough lead to where either doesn't quite matter or is close enough to where he doesn't get heat.
Over 99% of coaches, yeah.
Zach, anything?
I think the only observations I have is I think Detroit Lions only lose one more game this entire season. I think they're going to go 15-2 based on what I've seen. I think they're way better than what other people think. I think Evan alluded to it. They're going to have the best record in the NFC. They're going to be the number 1 seed. I'm jumping on that train based on what I've seen. That 1-2 punch between Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery is unbelievable, and Jared Goff is efficient as anything. With a good defense and the coaching staff that they have, this team is set up for success. They also play in a dome environment almost every game this season, just the way it worked out. Evmar Rankings gave me that stat, so I'm all here for it. 15-2, they do not lose in a dome environment.
Zach, they still have the 49ers, they have the Vikings twice, they have the Packers twice, they have the Cowboys. This is not some cakewalk schedule, and their conference is good. They still got the Bears with a good defense. Like, that is a bold statement, but I'm so here for it. That'll make a good clip. I don't know that I agree with you, but I love that assessment.
They're going 15-2, and the Minnesota Vikings are going to go 5-7 for the rest of this year. I'm telling you. I completely disagree with Evan's take that Minnesota is definitively the best team in the league. I still think they're like a top 14 team this year.
I'm saying based on what they've done through 5 games, though, you cannot make an argument that they're not. I mean, look at the teams they beat. Give me a break.
Agreed.
I do love Detroit, but they haven't done anything this year to
exactly
really prove give credence to my take of them winning the NFC. They haven't really looked that good, but they have been able to sneak out a lot of these games, which gives me some optimism. So 15-2 is insane. I'm not going 15-2.
I mean,
but I do love the team
we'll see,
because I love the Lions.
We'll see. Lost to the Buccaneers at home, 16 or 20-16, which the Bucs are obviously better than you and I thought, Zach. I definitely think that with the Cowboys, as I alluded to, their divisional teams twice, the 49ers, it's not gonna be that much of a cakewalk. Again, the NFC beats each other up. I do expect them to have one of the best records in the NFC, but I don't think anyone's going 15-2 this year. Not even the Chiefs. I love the Chiefs, but I don't even think they're going to go 15-2.
We will see. We will see.
The league has too much parity. That's all I got to say about that.
A lot of parity.
The Vikings deserve it. It's unfair to them. I don't think they're going to finish the way that they've started, but right now they deserve their flowers, though.
All right, should we jump into picks?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, recapping the standings quick here. Cy missed a week, and unfortunately, he missed a fruitful week, which puts Zach, I believe, like one game off the pace. I think they're 10 percentage points away, which is like almost one pick. So Zach's right on him. I'm 3 behind Zach. So it's starting to tighten up. Everyone's at least 500. I finally am back at the 500 mark. So hoorah. That's good news there. The guest pickers are actually slightly below 500, but they've had some tough weeks. So first game, as we alluded to, is Thursday Night Football. 49ers at Seahawks, a huge divisional game in Seattle. San Francisco is a 3.5 point favorite on the road. Over under is 49.5. Let's start with Zach.
Seahawks money line.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 49ers win and cover.
I have San Francisco win, but no cover. I was tempted by the money line as well, but it's 3.5. I will take those points every day of the week. Next game, Jacksonville at Chicago out in London. Jacksonville, a team very comfortable playing in London. The spread is actually Chicago minus 2.5. Over under is 44.5. Let's start with Cy.
Chicago win and cover.
I have Jacksonville money line, a team that's very comfortable playing in London. Maybe they start to turn their season around.
Chicago win and cover. That's an easy one.
All right. Cleveland at Philadelphia, first 1 p.m. of the week. Philly is I have 8.5 here. The spreads I think it's 9.5 now. Spreads have kind of moved since I typed this up, but so we'll call it 9.5. Over under is 43.5. I have Philly killing them off a bye week, so Philly wouldn't cover. Zach?
Same with me. Philly win and cover.
You said Eagles are 8.5 at home.
I think now it's 9.5, but
9.5.
Yeah.
Okay. Either way, I'll go cover as well. I'm with you guys.
yeah, I figured. Arizona at Green Bay. Green Bay is a 5-point favorite at home. Over under is 48.5. Let's start with Zach.
The Cardinals have played eerily well in like cold locations on the road. They played the Bills really closely earlier this season, albeit it was summertime when it happened. Give me the Packers to win and cover -5. The Cardinals played great last week, but they can't get multiple wins in a row. I think the Packers are going to win pretty comfortably here.
Cy?
Yeah, I think the Packers will win. I'm debating the cover, but I think the Packers are going to start heating up now as guys are getting a little bit healthier. I'll go cover. Why not? Packers win and cover.
I say no cover. I have a close game. Shout out Zach for picking Arizona to beat San Fran last week. Really good pick, Zach.
Agreed.
But
Agreed.
I'll say Green Bay pulls out a close one. Houston at New England. How about a little Drake May NFL debut against a really good defense? Houston is I'm double checking my numbers here. 7-point favorite on the road. Over under is 38.5. Let's start with Cy.
I'm going to say with Nico out and them on the road, I expect them to win the game, but who knows? Maybe Drake May will have some magic. I'll go Patriots cover it, but Houston wins.
I have Houston winning handedly. I think this is a really dangerous decision by Gerard Mayo to put Drake May in behind a horrendous offensive line against one of the best defensive lines in the league. So I think that's probably a mistake. Should have waited a week or two. Houston blows them out, wins and covers. Zach?
Yeah, I have this being like a 27-6 game. I don't even think they're going to get in the end zone, the Patriots. And the Patriots offense has struggled this entire season. So this is like my favorite spread of the week. Houston.
Letting you guys know, no Nico and no Joe Mixon. Just a heads up.
They'll be fine. Tampa Bay at New Orleans. Tampa Bay is a 3.5-point favorite on the road. Spencer Rattler, another rookie quarterback, making his NFL debut. Over under is 41.5. I'll start us off with a Tampa Bay win and cover. I think Tampa Bay is a way better team, and it might be tricky for Rattler in his debut. Zach?
Tampa Bay win and cover.
You guys are going to hate me.
Don't do it.
All right, fine. I'm not gonna go money line. I want to, but I'm gonna go Saints cover. No, but I'll go Buccaneers win, so we can still talk about it on the Matrix. Don't worry.
Wait a second, but is your justification because Spencer Rattler's playing?
No, I think the Saints are like a solid team. I mean, they lost the Chiefs, but the Saints have been pretty solid this season.
The Saints
also, I don't know why I'm getting crap when you said the Buccaneers weren't going to win 7 games this season, Zach. And now you're out here acting like I'm crazy for picking the Saints to cover. That's crazy.
Well, you're screwing us over from 2 easy wins this week. that
He left it
now
on the
don't fit
board.
the
He left it on the
matrix.
board.
I literally left it on the board, but don't tell me I'm screwing
Oh,
it over.
sweet.
I'm allowed to make my own pick, Zach. I appreciate it.
The Saints are a bad team. We thought they were a bad team going into the season. They fooled us with 2 great wins and huge wins, and now I do like Rattlers' chances to do well out of the gate, but they're just not a very good team, I don't think. And Tampa Bay has like 4 extra days to prepare. They played on Thursday. The Saints played on Monday, so that's my logic.
It's in New Orleans and it's a divisional game. I think it will be a close game. I don't think Vegas is crazy for this spread.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means, but I am comfortable with the cover. Next game, Indianapolis at Tennessee. Titans off a bye. I assume it's going to be Will Levis. Colts are actually 1-point favorites on the road with the the entire team questionable at this point, if not already out.
We'll get some guys this week.
Over unders 42.5. I have Tennessee winning on the money line at home. Zach,
Give me the Colts. Colts win and cover.
Yeah, we'll get Quiddy Pay and Kenny Moore back most likely. Something big for our defense. I'm going to go Colts win.
all right, next game of the year, dare I say, Washington and Baltimore. Baltimore is a 6.5-point favorite at home. Over under is pretty high. It's 51.5. Let's start with Zach.
I am shocked by that spread because I was not giving Washington the proper flowers on this podcast, but that spread really reflects something worse. I feel like this is going to be a closer game, but this is in Baltimore, and M&T Bank's going to be crazy. I feel like the Ravens are just now heating up, so dare I say, Ravens win and cover. I think they clear by a touchdown. I think this is a sobering, humbling moment for the Commanders, but they will not be out after this game.
Sai?
I will say Baltimore wins but doesn't cover. I just think they're way better at home than they are on the road, especially that defense. They seem to show up more.
So the interesting betting nugget in terms of approaching Baltimore is they have an unbelievable record against NFC teams. And I think it's because like when you don't play Lamar, often or ever, he's like impossible to stop because he's just so unique. And as you guys mentioned, playing at home, but I'll take those 6.5 points any day of the week. I don't want to give up a homer pick on the standings board, so I'll say Baltimore wins but doesn't cover. I think it's gonna be a great game. I think Jaden is a similar type of player where if you haven't seen him before, he's gonna be really hard to stop. So probably taking the over. I think it's gonna be a great game for the Beltway rivalry, but I'll say Baltimore pulls it out. Mainly just so I don't give away a pick to you guys here on my own team. But 4 p.m. Chargers at Denver. One thing, we should have mentioned Denver earlier. Denver is playing good ball right now. Shout out them and Bo Nix. Aiden O'Connell gets his first start of the year. We got a lot of new quarterbacks this week. Chargers are 3-point favorites on the road. Over under is 35.5. I'll take Denver at home to win this game outright. I know the Chargers are coming off a bye, but Denver's playing well. I'll keep riding them here. Zach?
Yeah, give me Denver. Denver money line.
Well, wait, hold on. You said Aiden O'Connell was getting the start?
Oh, sorry, wrong game. You're right. Wrong game on next one.
I was confused for a minute. Wait, you mean the Chargers, Justin Herbert, are going to Denver to play Bo Nix in Denver, right?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, okay. So I'm taking the Chargers and Herbert to win that game.
All right, cover 3?
Yep.
-3. Are you you're taking the cover?
Oh, sorry. It was +3 Broncos. I expect the Chargers to win that game. I'll take the cover though. Yeah.
Right. Yes, good correction. Si, we have Pittsburgh at Las Vegas. Pittsburgh's -3 on the road. Aiden O'Connell is starting this week. Si, do you want to start it off?
Yeah, I will go Steelers win and cover.
I have the same. Zach?
Same with me. I love this spread. I think Justin Fields and Pittsburgh will have a bounce back. I actually think they'll play really well offensively.
Yeah, it's probably a big week for Fields because Wilson is getting close. So I thought Schefter was saying there was a chance they would go to Wilson this week. So Fields needs to keep proving himself after back-to-back losses. But I think he plays well here. Big 4:00 game, Detroit at Dallas. Detroit's a 3-point favorite on the road. Over-under is 52.5. Let's start with Zach.
Give me Lions win and cover because of my latest prediction.
They're going to lose this one and then win the rest of the game. I'm with you, Zach. Lions win and cover.
Yeah, I have win and cover as well. Atlanta at Carolina. Atlanta's a 6-point favorite on the road. Over-under is 47.5. I'll say Atlanta wins and covers.
Yeah, it's going to be a beautiful game in Charlotte. Falcons win and cover.
I am going to take back everything I said this week if the Falcons don't win and cover this game. This seems like they definitely should. So yeah.
Definitely.
Sunday Night Football, as I alluded to earlier in the show, Cincinnati at the Giants. Cincinnati's a 3.5-point favorite on the road. We'll see about Malik Neighbors. I don't think he's practicing still, so it must be a pretty bad concussion. But start with Cy.
I felt very strongly that Seattle was going to cover against the Giants, and I was wrong. So I thank you. I think it was Evan for maybe not letting us pick that. But this week, I feel very strongly the Bengals are going to cover in New York, especially with how much I've been touting them having a bounce back. So I expect the Bengals to win and cover.
Yeah, a much lower number, much more tolerable, especially if Neighbors is out. Weather should be okay, so they should be able to do their usual offensive domination and try to blow the game on defense. But Buffalo, the Giants aren't that bad of a team, though, is my point. Buffalo, this is an interesting game. Buffalo at the Jets on Monday Night Football. Buffalo's a 2.5-point favorite on the road with Jeff Ulbrich coaching the Jets. Let's start with Zach here.
I think the Jets are going to have a bounce back based on all the tomfoolery that's going on. Give me the Jets money line here. With Josh Allen going 9 for 30 last game, he's going against a tougher defense now. I think this is a great spread in favor for the Jets. So give me the Jets here.
So,
yeah, I think Josh Allen's going to have to run for like 4 touchdowns, which I'm not saying he can't for them to win this game. So I'm going to pick the Jets just because the poor guy's like literally having to put the team on his back. So I'm going to go Jets.
3 for 3, gents, on the Jets money line. I picked the Jets to win this division before the year. And if they're going to do that, I think they need to win this football game. Buffalo's looked really, really rough against good defenses this year. Back-to-back weeks, Houston and Baltimore, they were an absolute mess offensively. Josh is pretty banged up. The Jets are a mess, though, too, obviously. So this is just one mess versus the other, but huge stakes on the line. So we'll see what happens. But I think that Thursday night and Monday Night Football game just so huge for their respective divisions for a couple of struggling teams that really need to win. So I think this is a really interesting week of matchups as always, but I'll pass it to you guys if there's any last words before we close the show.
No, thank you guys for your patience. Go Mets on the NLCS, man. I'm hyped, and it'll make watching football way more, or I should say way less stressful for me this weekend because I'll be way more stressed about the playoff game. So I'll leave it at that. Now go ahead.
Zach.
All I got to say is knock on wood. I really like the spreads this week in comparison to prior weeks. So if you've been listening the whole time, follow our picks, and we will post those very shortly. But Ev, I'll kick it back over to you here. Looks like you got something to say.
Yes. Actually, we didn't post on Instagram this week, did we? No. So people don't realize, I know, we haven't done great betting this year, but we went 3 for 3 on the Seams Media Pick'em Parlay this week. So trust us, if you stick with us, you will be rewarded. Apologies that we didn't let you know the picks this week, although I'm sure everyone would have faded it anyway based on our performance through 4 weeks. But hey, we are getting hot at the right time. So if you hang with us, not that anyone's probably listening at this hour of the pod, if you hang with us, we're getting going here. So, back on track. But that's all I got.
Well, you got to pay $30 for our picks, though. That's the business strategy.
Pay for this, man.
One more good week, it's behind the paywall. All right.
I love it.
All right, that was Mondays Down South.